So after the recent, changes, which we found out that Collins might be coming back before week one and might be healthy by week one, and then you also have Jackson Carman, who has been bulking up, who looks good, he looks slender. This man has been absolutely doing everything humanly possible to become the starting right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a former second round pick in 2021, and he has taken a couple years, but it looks like he might be able to fully become a starter. Well, now Cincinnati's in a good spot, right? Because first off, they have some expandable players. Jonah Williams and Collins. Two players that you're like, okay, well, we've got two expandable players. You got Joe Mixon, who's another expandable player because this draft class is very good. Cincinnati is also sitting on the cusp of having to, re-sign Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, DJ Reader, right? But they might be able to, in the very low-key status here, create a super team. Let me explain this. So, starting off right away, and I'm just going to get this out of the way. The way they have approached free agency has been so beautiful. And I don't think people realize how amazing they approached this. They haven't offered contracts to Eli Apple or Trey Flowers, right? Both of their cornerbacks that were pretty dang good last season, correct? Well, Eli Apple kind of on the fence. That means, and keep in mind, no one has even talked to Eli Apple. Nobody has. But a couple teams brought in Trey Flowers and couldn't get a contract done with them. So if Cincinnati, the waiting game, they sit back, whatever. We don't need you, man. We have our own guys, They literally are going to make Eli Apple and Trey Flowers come to them. And whenever a player comes to a team, well, that's when money isn't that high. I honestly believe after the draft, maybe in June, July area, they can get back Eli Apple and Trey Flowers for almost league minimum as 1 year prove-it deals. Because they're both going to be 29 years old going into this season, right? So, and let's be honest, Eli Apple really has no other opportunity. He's either a prove-it deal 1 year or the man's gone, right? He's done. He's bye-bye, have a good day. They both tested the market in free agency. Nobody wanted them. So what does that mean? That means that they need to, right now, play next year, have fantastic years, amazing years, and then hit free agency next year and get huge contracts. And that might be what Cincinnati tells them. Hey, listen, we're going to give you 1 year prove-it deals, and what you guys are going to do is come on this team, help us go win a Super Bowl, and then next season, we'll let you go. And you can test free agency again, see how you can do it. Because at the end of the day, if Cincy doesn't sign them, no one's going to sign them. And if no one signs either of these guys, well, then that's going to be, they're on the opportunity. And they want to make money. So maybe not league minimum, but I'm going to guess something in the $2.5 million range for each guy, which is way, way, way under what the market value is. But the reason why they signed this is, again, it's a 1 year prove-it deal. So let's say Trey Flowers and Eli Apple both signed these contracts. Again, keep in mind, I really thought, another team would scoop up at least Trey Flowers, but they didn't. So what ends up happening here is they end up signing these contracts, go out next year, right? Let's say Eli Apple has 3 interceptions on the year, Trey Flowers has 2. Well, now another team was going to come through and say, you know what, Trey, I'll give you 2 years, $5-6 million a year, and you become a member of blank, right? That's what point of prove-it deals. It's either stay in free agency and hope that another guy gets injured and then you get a starting job or even a job, or you just come to us. You know the defense. You know we're going to make you look good, and you stay on the Bengals for very cheap. So $5 million for those two said players. So now let's talk about other things we're going to see most likely happen. Well, first off, if Jackson Carman is playing as good as he is right now and looking as good as he is, Cincinnati is even more amped then to move Jonah Williams. Because Collins, with everything being said, right, with his back and injuries, he has made it clear. He wants to come back on the field, play on the field because he wants to play on the championship team. Whether or not you believe he is good enough, he has injury enough, whatever, he is saying, I want to be a Bengal, right? Jonah is saying, make me left tackle or I don't want to be a Bengal. There's a different perspective. Now, Jonah's not saying, hey, I won't play if you don't trade me, but it's still, no. One thing I've learned, and I've seen this so much on Bengals fans' Twitters, is Mike Brown does not like it when you want to ask for a release or you ask for a trade. He doesn't like his players asking to go. If he gets rid of you, he gets rid of you. But he doesn't like it when you ask him to, hey, listen, man, I want to be traded. He does not like that. And some owners are like, whatever, man, it happens. We'll just do whatever is best for the team. Some owners really resent it. And they get to a point where they're like, oh, you want to be traded? Awesome. We're going to make sure we win and you lose. Anyway, though, so you trade him. You can't cut him. Keep in mind, if you cut him, you lose $12.6 million as the Cincinnati Bengals here. If you trade him anytime, you save $12.6 million. Now, the problem here, right, is the fact that Cincinnati wants a first, second round pick. I've seen some people ask, like, oh, who said that? Who said that? Cincy say that? No, Cincy would never say something like that. NFL executives around the league have said that Cincy has been reaching out to their teams, to their respective teams, and that they have been asking for a first or second round pick. Because there's a lot of fans out here who are like, if let's say you're not a Bengals fan, right? Let's say you're, a Jets fan, right? You're like, we need a left tackle. Jonah Williams is going to be traded. Why don't we have Jonah Williams? Well, the executives are trying to make it clear. Listen, we're not saying no to Jonah Williams. We'll trade for him. We don't care about his price tag. We will rework his contract. It is what it is. The problem is they want him for a 4th or 5th round pick, and Cincy's telling them, well, go stick it where the sun don't shine. If you think you're going to get our guy who was a former 1st round pick for a 4th or 5th round pick. We're going to start at a 1st, and we're going to end at a 2nd. And that's really the problem we have right now. Now, the good thing about all this in the end, right, is that draft day changes a lot. And, let's say, for example, Cincinnati is in the, the 2nd or 3rd round, and they do see a guy they really do want. Now, the thing about Cincy is, and how they work is, they usually work in they always work in a very smart way, where they don't trade up for somebody. And the reason I don't trade up for somebody is because, again, you don't ever know if players are going to be bust or not. You just know that, hey, listen, if you want a guy, we're going to take whoever best available player is at our position. But they might see somebody that they're like, or maybe they don't trade up. Maybe they're like, oh, we really want this guy and this guy. All right, trade Jonah, get an extra pick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll select that guy too. So it could be something like that. This is 1,000%, by the way, Jonah Williams trade. If it doesn't happen on draft night, I don't see it happening. I don't. Because it's better to have depth than anything. So if Jackson Carman, for example, you're going to the season, if he's the starter, let's say Collins is healthy, but he's not 100%, he's the backup, and then Jonah's the 3rd string. We saw last year in the playoffs, we need offensive linemen. Why? What happened on the last play that Joe Burrow had the ball in the AFC Championship game? Hakeem got destroyed by Chris Jones. Absolutely destroyed. Hakeem should never have been in that spot. Should have had a starting right tackle that whole time. So, it is what it is. You can't dwell on the past, but at the same time, you got to fix the future, right? So, that's that. Next thing on here, Joe Mixon. Now, I could make the argument, listen, Joe ends up just getting cut, right? Post June 1st cut, we saved $7.2 million, and we move on with our lives. But based on rumors recently, it has been talked about that he's going to take a pay cut. He's the ultimatum, either take a pay cut or get cut. And with his recent legal issues, he'll probably end up just taking a pay cut. And I'm going to guess he gets down to a salary here of around $3.4 million, $3.5 million. I don't see him making much more than that. I really don't. Did I do this incorrectly? Hang on. Restructure. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So base salary in this year, 3.5 mil. Next year, 3.5 mil. And then this year, we're just gonna take away these. Actually, if he's 6.5 against the cap, no, we can't take away that. So, all right, we'll do 6.25 against the cap then. Because of that, because he gets his bonus, I might knock it down to 2, and he might just get paid 5.2 a year for the next 2 years. There we go. So now we save money there, right? We got $33 million now. Now we got our 2 cornerbacks back. We got Joe Mixon figured out, right? We got Jonah figured out. Now, if I'm Cincy here, right? You just drafted a huge running back in the draft. You're all excited. You got a new face in town. Now you go out there and you sign Zeke Elliott. And we say, what do you sign him to? You sign him to an incentive-based completely contract. It's going to be a 2-year contract, and he's going to be making around $1.75 a year for 2 years. And again, keep in mind, whenever a team is desperate and goes after somebody, like, oh, listen, we're going to go after A, B, C, and D, and we want him, and we're going to go after we're going to go and get him before other teams get him, the price tag is high. But you know how when you go to a store and you're buying, like, let's say, for example, you're buying, like, electronic, right? And when the electronic first comes out, that electronic is $1,000. But if you go to that store a year later, that same electronic, and go, hey, listen, I like to buy the electronic. That electronic is probably going to be $650, $600, $500. It's going to be half price because it's been on the store shelves for a year and nobody bought it. Same concept happens to players in the NFL. If free agency hits and that player is quote unquote not selected, not, given a contract, and now we're getting closer and closer to the season, as closer you get to a season, the lower the price tag is. Because clearly, you don't have many options. A lot of people think you might have a lot of options, but you don't. So that's what, ends up happening is Joe Mixon ends up getting signed for that said reason. Now, other than that, there's not much more I would see this team needing to do. Listen, this team is in such a good spot right now. And this draft is going to increase their, spot tenfold. Obviously, $32 million. You re-sign Joe Burrow, get him on an extension, get T. Higgins on an extension. That right there, Burrow, because he did say, Jamar Chase came out and said he would take less money if he was able to keep the team together, take a team-friendly deal. I'm going to guess they structure it kind of like how Jalen Hurts' contract is structured. This year he's making 3.4, next year he's making 21, and then his annual salary after that is 51 a year. That's going to kind of how I guess how they're going to structure Joe Burrow. So, with that being said, I'm going to guess that Joe Burrow's contract ends up becoming around $21 million cap hit. So, that's $12 million right there. Then T is going to be around probably 7 or 8, depending on what contract extension he signs. Yeah, $3 million extra. You're going to rework some other things around. And, again, you're going to look toward the future. And you might get DJ Reader back on a pretty team-friendly contract, too. So, not bad. And like I said, you could create a super team here if you're Cincinnati. You really could. Because now, with all these players coming back, you got now what? Cheeto being back, Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton, Eli Apple, Trey Flowers. Yes, you might. The only real issue with the Cincinnati Bengals now is edge rusher, safety, and that's it. Because you got the running back situation figured out. You got the receivers already. Tight ends, you got Irv Smith. You got Drew Sample back. Obviously, you might draft a tight end in this upcoming draft. Right tackle now is figured out. If Collins comes back healthy, right tackle is figured out. And even if you want to say, well, what if we draft the right tackle, which again, I don't know if you guys will or not, it all depends, then you just cut Collins, or you trade Collins, and you save even more money. This could become a super team. I'm honestly 1,000% like saying, especially if this draft goes good, oh my god, this draft if you get a really good starting safety in this draft, which again, there's only like 2 or 3 on the board, you replace Jesse Bates and Von Bell. Even, let's say, 2/3 of their production value. This whole entire team changes. And again, even if they were to go out there and, let's say, hypothetically speaking, trade for Austin Eckler, trade for Budda Baker, even more. But right now, because, again, we thought, okay, well, Trey Flowers, Eli Apple are definitely going. Nobody had signed either guy. What that means is that now they're going to come back desperate. And Cincinnati has played the waiting game, and they're going to be in a huge spot to just take that W. This is going to be a dangerous team next year, guys. The NFL is about to be scared. See you guys next one. Peace out.